The time of the American Wild West occurred approximately between the end of the Civil War until about 1900. This was the height of the American cowboy. These were mostly young, single men in their teens to 20s, and this job would require them to tend to herds, work on ranches, and drive cattle from Texas to Kansas. The Chisholm Trail may have seen over 1.5 million cattle driven along its trail to Abilene. Things were changing, and the time of the cowboy was slowly closing. This was due to many things. The demand for cattle drives and for the cowboys slowly diminished as more railheads were established. Around this time, the patent for the barbed wire was filed in 1871, and ranches used this fence to contain their herds and close off their lands. This decreased the land available for open grazing. Also, the terrible winter of 1886 devastated many herds and reshaped the cattle industry. But the almost 30 years of the American Wild West and of the Cowboys have been made popular in newspapers, dime novels by Ned Buntline, and in 1883, the Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show of Omaha, Nebraska. Kansas was prominent in the tales of the West. Abilene saw over 5,000 cowboys during its peak in 1871, and it was host to some famous or infamous people. Saw Wild Bill Hickok as the town's marshal, and it was stated that he may have killed over 50 lawbreakers alleged during a short stay. Also in Kansas was Dodge City. It was a frontier town, and it was along the Santa Fe Trail. This place became a crossroad for interesting people, for freight lines, and for the headquarters of cattle industry. Its cemetery would become well known and was called Boot Hill. Two of its more famous lawmen were Bat Masterson and Wyatt Earp. Another famous town, but not in Kansas, was Tombstone, Arizona. Silver was found in the area, and by 1881, over 7,000 people were there looking to make their money, either from the silver or off of the other people that were there. Some notable names that spent some time in Tombstone were Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, and Johnny Ringo. This town was known for some lawlessness, and feuds did happen. One of the most famous feuds was at the OK Corral between the Earps and the Clantons. By the close of the 1800s, the railroad had spanned the continent. Settlers were pouring into the West, and with them came churches, families, civilities, and laws. The Wild West was no longer a frontier, and it was no longer wild. But for 30 years it was hard. It was open, it was dangerous, but it inspired stories, myths, and legends.